Regina K. Walters' story is truly a sad one. She grew up in a broken home in Texas, around the Houston area. She had an older brother and sister, but her sister committed suicide at age 13 when she was only 6 years old. In 1990, 14-year-old Regina meets and falls in love with 18-year-old Ricky Lee Jones. They decided to run away together and get married in Mexico. Having no transportation, they decided to hitchhike there. Somewhere along the way, Regina and Ricky ran into a trucker at a truck stop by Pasadena, Texas. A middle-aged husband and father. And serial killer, Robert Ben Rhodes. He converted his semi-truck into a mobile torture chamber, equipped with chains, shackles, and handcuffs to help him restrain his victims. Not long after he picks the pair up, Robert Rhodes kills Ricky immediately. Ricky's body was found on March 3rd, 1991. Rhodes had put him in a barrel and dropped him by the water somewhere. Ricky's family never looked for him or put out a missing persons alert. His body was found in Mississippi, but he was a John Doe for a very long time. He was not identified until July 2008. One of the saddest things about this case, aside from the horrific ordeal of Regina Walters, is the fact that Ricky Lee Jones is rarely mentioned. His family didn't seem to care about him. Robert Rhodes did not kill Regina for some time and kept her shackled in the cab of his truck, subjecting her to endless torture and rape. He would also call her father from payphones along his truck stops and torment him about his missing daughter. It is believed he held on to Regina for as long as possible. The police deducted this based on photos Rhodes took of Regina in which her hair grew and bruises appeared and faded away. Robert Rhodes had a very distinctive M.O. He would cut the hair on his victims, head short, and shave off all body hair, including their genital area. He would also have them pose in dresses and high heels and take photos of his victims. Regina Walters was eventually taken to an unused barn in Illinois, where Rhodes continued to rape and torture her for what is thought to be days. This is where he took the final photos of young Regina. In the end, he strangled her with 16 twists of baling wire. He covered her body with straw and left. In September 1990, her body was discovered by a farmer who was checking his barn before he was going to burn it down. On April 1st, 1990, an Arizona Highway Patrolman, Mike Miller, spots Robert Rhodes' truck pulled over on the shoulder of Interstate 10 with its hazard lights flashing. The officer makes it a routine traffic stop and decided to investigate. He discovers a naked white female in the sleeper berth of the cab, shackled and screaming. Rhodes was immediately arrested. In his truck, police found his murder kit, along with whips, chains, cords, dildos, leashes, alligator clips, handcuffs, pins, and fish hooks he used on all his victims. When police search his apartment, they discover the photos of a young teenager, Regina K. Walters. Regina was his last victim. The photos that were released by the FBI show a very terrified young girl who had to endure unspeakable horror minutes before her death in the abandoned farmhouse where he made her wear a black dress and high heels, and where her body was eventually found. I can't even imagine what she went through. The expression of absolute terror on her face. Absolutely chilling. She was only 14. Rhodes was suspected of raping and murdering over 50 women between 1975 and 1990. He may have picked up his sadistic tendencies from his father, who molested a 12-year-old girl and killed himself before he could be put on trial. After numerous trials in different states, Robert Ben Rhodes was only found guilty of 3 murders. He pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. He is currently serving 2 life sentences without parole at the Bernard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois.
And here we are at the Mount Zion Cemetery here in the Woodlands, Texas, about 30 minutes north of Houston. And this is the grave of Regina K. Walters, May 5th, 1975 to September 29th, 1990. And she's buried next to her sister, Diana Lynn. She would be her older sister, and she died when she was 12 years old. Very sad just to be, a teenager, maybe, you're with your boyfriend and traveling around the country, just being young and free, never thinking anything like this could ever happen to you, and a very tragic and horrific death. This young lady, very, very sad. My heart breaks for her family, and it's quite tragic to say the least.